Dr. Barry, London News. Here's some clips from Sky News Outsiders that gives the information without any bumps, worries, or cares. They just tell it as it is, and thank God for them, because the other TV stations, well, they're a disgrace, absolute disgrace. The CEOs of these television stations, they all know who they are, should be brought before the people in charge with incitement. Anyhow, let's have a quick look at Sky News Outsiders, and let's hope it's been a little bit beneficial. Take care for now. Dr. Barry signing off, and thanks for subscribing. And remember, next month, the International Common Law Court will have lots of good news for you guys. It's going to change history. Bye for now.
There is another lockdown, of course, in Sydney, and they happen with so much frequency now that they're about as shocking as a set of foreign knockers on SBS at night. And if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. Gladys the Great, as we thought she was, has wet the bed and told everyone to stay home for 2 weeks. And now every time this happens, it obviously dominates the news cycle, and we tend to forget very quickly some of the other coronavirus-related news that has been going on. And I'm sure that's how some of our premiers and unelected chief public health bureaucrats would like it. They get to parade around and carry on about how they're saving us all and keeping us healthy in perpetuity. But I'm not going to let this stuff go, and nor should you. And what I'm talking about is the dark side of these lockdowns and the draconian rules that just keep on keeping on. The number of inhumane, heartless, gutless and disgusting things state governments have been allowed to get away with in the name of, quote, keeping us healthy is astonishing. And yet it all seems to be swept under the rug as we pat ourselves on the back for stopping 12 cases of coronavirus, even though next to no one's in hospital. Exhibit A, the case of Mark Killian and Anneli Gurecki. They wanted to visit Mark's dying father, Franz, on the Gold Coast. They were granted a travel exemption on compassionate grounds to fly from the US to Sydney. They then applied to fly to the Gold Coast but were told to go away. Mark and Anneli were fully vaccinated, had offered to charter their own flights so they didn't make contact with passengers. They were happy to wear hazmat suits, the whole shebang, but Queensland Health said no 4 times. Here they are.
It's just a very simple, compassionate plea to be able. I think everyone understands what that feels like, to be able to see your father one last time and say goodbye.
A Queensland Health spokesman said it would, quote, always put the safety of the Queensland community first, and our quarantine policy has been successful in keeping our community safe. In other words, go to hell. We have no compassion. This case was so embarrassing that it attracted international attention for its callousness. Mark and Anneli were forced to sit in hotel quarantine worrying that Franz would die before they were allowed out. It took a massive media campaign and pressure from the Prime Minister, for heaven's sake, for Queensland to finally let them in last week. How pathetic. Exhibit B, also in Queensland. What a surprise. Moe Haydar and wife Sarah flew back from Australia from Qatar and ended up quarantining in Brisbane. They are originally from Melbourne. Sarah was given an exemption to go to hospital for a pregnancy checkup while she was in quarantine, which revealed complications. So she was given an emergency C-section and her son was born 10 weeks premature. He was then taken away and Moe and Sarah were not allowed to see their own newborn son, yet again, despite being fully vaccinated, because they were supposed to be in quarantine. They were made to watch him via a video call. No touch, none of the closeness that is instinctive to new parents. That experience was ripped away from them in the name of humanity, would you believe it, and health, despite the fact the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital had devised a plan that would allow them to safely visit their child. Queensland Health, however, said no. How disgusting can this stuff get? Exhibit C. James Turbot flew in from Belgium on Friday night to visit his dying mother, whose health had deteriorated rapidly. He couldn't get a flight to Perth, where she is living or was living, so he had to fly to Melbourne. Now, James was denied the chance to fly to Perth to say goodbye to his mother. He was told that if he were to go, he would have to charter a private flight. He had tested negative to COVID multiple times already, but that didn't matter. His mother died in hospital, aged 65, at 1:30 a.m. last Sunday. James, on the other side of the country, had his final interaction with his mother over Skype on a dodgy hotel internet connection. James is now staging a hunger strike to try and bring some attention to this kind of cruelty. And these examples are only from this month. I mean, there are so many other cases like them. Sarah Casip was last September barred from attending her own father's funeral in, you guessed it, Queensland. The government said funerals were, quote, very risky. Sarah had travelled from the ACT, where there had been no new cases of COVID-19 for 2 months. After backlash, she was allowed to view her father's body in full PPE under police guard without any family to console her. Dominique Santar was last year stopped by the South Australian government from coming from Victoria to visit her mother, who was dying of stage 4 breast cancer. At that time, SA had ridiculously banned its own citizens from coming from Victoria. She offered to do 2 weeks quarantine to visit her mum and was still denied. This stuff is sick. It is inflicting pain beyond belief upon people in the worst and most vulnerable times of their lives, all in the name, supposedly, of protecting them. So much concern for physical health, but absolutely none for mental health. These people will carry the pain and scars of this atrocious treatment at the hand of state governments for the rest of their lives. This will be the legacy of our coronavirus response. I hope our premiers and health bureaucrats are proud of themselves for what they've done.